everyone. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football. Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today. Hello, everyone. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football. Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop Rick House #1 from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Glad to have you along. And Coach Griff, Joe and Reed joins us, and we're joined by our friend Nick Kosko from On3. How are you, sir?
Good, boys. Appreciate you having me on today.
Man, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Looking forward to another fun and exciting college football season, period. Not just Big Ten season, but last year when we were going through all of toward the end of the year, I kept talking about how fun that season had been as a fan. If I could just enjoyed it as a fan, I'm like, damn, that was fun. The games, there's teams that have risen. Indiana, one of those, but Illinois, again, will be two of those in the mix again this year. Don't know what Iowa's going to be like, but outside of that, I know that there are other teams that are going to be doing that. But I wonder, is that going to be offset now by the House case settlement with, there's still going to be separation between the haves and the have-nots?
You probably still are going to have that for a little while. I mean, when you look at the House settlement, you're probably waiting for, all right, how is this going to even out? How's it going to, I guess, rectify itself over the next couple of years? Because, you still have coaches or ex-coaches like Mac Brown who said the other day, I still want a salary cap. There should be a cap on how much you could spend on, younger players. It should be like a scaled system. So there's a lot of nuance to this conversation, but I think because at least off the bat, it seems like I would imagine a lot of the big programs, at least the Power 4 institutions, are going to put their resources into the football program if they're not a basketball school, of course, and they'll be on an even playing field, so to speak, with the amount of money that they have at their disposal, at least from the House settlement. But the problem is there's still no cap on what these outside collectives and these other donors can do as well. So in the case of, obviously when you're talking about an Indiana versus, let's say, an Ohio State or an Oregon, I could just say without even knowing any numbers that a school like Ohio State or Oregon will have more outside money from donors, collectives, whatever the case may be, compared to an Indiana. Now, I'm not saying that can't change, but I think until that is rectified, or maybe there's other rules in place, you're still going to have the quote unquote have now, the haves and the have nots, compared to, maybe it'll slow down a little bit, but with the amount of money that schools can now spend and pay their players directly. But I think the presence of outside collectives in terms of the NIL space, where there's really no rules or cap on that still to this day, that'll still be a looming factor for the big programs as they look to outspend, even the mid-tier Power 4 programs.
Coach?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the NIL, I'm interested to see how this Deloitte group, clearance house, however you want to call it, established.
I wonder when, since they're involved, is every time that a deal's gone through, do they bring it out in an envelope and open it up and the deal is?
That'd be great, because we get to know what the deal is. But how they're going to establish this value, whether it's legit, whether it's not legit, to say that a running back's worth is X versus a running back at so-and-so. I'm interested to see how this is. I saw an article that said the biggest people that would have been racked up for the NIL were those that were particularly closest to the school, in that regard. So have you heard anything on that as it pertains to establishing levels, or, how they're going to do that?
Haven't heard directly, but I'm with you. I'm curious on how this is actually going to work. So I believe it's $600 is the amount, the dollar figure amount. So it's like, I mean, if somebody were paying me NIL money, I'd be lucky to get $10. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't have to claim that, but it's almost like, hey, this is going to be taxed or something. You know what I mean? So you have to claim it if it's over $600. I'm not really sure where it's going to go with it, or how they're actually going to, I guess, establish, whether it's levels or determine someone's value. And I that brings up almost a pretty general question of, how do you determine a high school kid's value or a transfer portal kid's value? And I think it's, it goes back to the old expression, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, one school could value this running back a lot more and pay him a lot more, than all of a sudden they're paying him, what is it? Let's just say 6 figures. And all of a sudden they have to, send that and get it basically approved by the clearinghouse, or however it's going to work. I think the genesis of it is probably to say, we don't want you guys to throw this money around willy-nilly, or you at least have to be public with what you're doing, because again, you see all these reports of what these kids are getting in football, basketball, even some of the Olympic sports. I cover wrestling very intently, and I've been around college wrestling for over 10 years. Some of these guys are getting big time paydays, but there's a lot of speculation on what they're actually making. It's like, well, these big wrestling programs or big football schools, they're going to throw out, well, we have blank checks. We have these donors that are disposed that can write out blank checks. We don't have to tell anybody what we're spending on it, because they're just going to write it off as, maybe a donation to a charity or something. So I'm not sure where it's going to go exactly. I think it's a step in the right direction to at least make this public. And if college sports is going to go to the way of professional sports, we see it all the time with pro athletes. We know their contract numbers, or at least the general numbers of what their contract is worth. And that is all for public consumption. So I think that's the direction we're going. Whether it's a good idea or not for college kids remains to be seen. But I think if you're going to have to go into the direction of pro sports, this is what you have to do.
Well, and we've seen, I'll use Indiana for an example, just because it's easy, that they have been able to put together a competitive team, and they are able to follow that up. And it looks like with the the uptick in recruiting, that does not seem to be slowing down. It seems to be continuing to move. Just had a flip today of a kid from Louisville to Indiana, 4-star edge rusher. So it's not ironic. There was an event not too long ago, and that the basketball coach has always been the featured speaker. And not only was the football coach the featured speaker this time, beforehand, when the media got to meet with both coaches, someone asked Curt Cignetti about something to do with NIL. I said, well, I'd like to have brought in a few more guys, but Darren had to replace his whole roster and money got a little tight. And just joking. And some people wondered if there was some truth to that scenario, and there just might have been, but no, but Indiana is not, I don't know how they can ever compete like a school like Indiana Rutgers. I'm not greatly informed on how Rutgers NIL situation is, but I wouldn't think that Indiana nor Rutgers could compete with the Ohio States or the Michigans or the Penn States of the world.
No, not necessarily. And I think it's going to take somebody who's going to be very generous. You know what I mean? So if there's a rich guy out there or, a rich woman who wants to say, you know what, I have more money than I would ever know what to do with. And I want to start investing into these schools' athletic programs because I happen to go here or my kid goes here. That's one thing. But I think for schools like that, you need to get lucky because you don't have the built-in brand like an Ohio State, a Penn State, a Michigan. Those schools have more money than they know what to do with at this point because it seems like there's an endless supply to the donor base because they have a large alumni base and frankly, they're just richer schools. They don't have this long storied tradition. You look at Indiana last year, best season in program history when it comes to the football, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now there's expectations, but oh yeah, we need to start catching up to the Michigans, Ohio States, Oregons, Penn States, because they have all this money within the Big Ten. And you're looking at, I guess, the way the Big Ten allocates money. Rutgers was waiting on their full share from the Big Ten from getting into the Big Ten over 10 years ago for a long time, just using it as an example. And just going back to the point about the House settlement and the amount of money that these schools are going to be able to allocate from the nearly $3 billion that the House settled on with the NCAA. Yes, schools are mostly going to have, I guess, around the same amount of money to spend, and it's just up to the school themselves to allocate. Okay, here's the percentage that's going to the football program. Here's what's going to basketball, and then the Olympic sports. Go ahead, start fighting it out for the scraps at this point. I think it's up to the school as far as how much they want to allocate to each. And I think, like I said before, schools like Indiana. I mean, Indiana might be an exception because they have a good football program now, but obviously a lot of history in basketball. They might divvy it up a little bit differently, but at a school like Rutgers, where they had two NBA draft picks on their basketball team just last season, struggled anyway. But again, Rutgers has been a football dominant school in a school that doesn't have too much great athletic tradition in terms of championships. So you're looking at maybe football gets the bulk of the money because the way that Greg Schiano operates, and then the rest goes to basketball. Then other sports like wrestling, and I would say women's basketball a little bit, that they'll get the scraps among the other Olympic sports or non-revenue generating sports. So they're going to, schools like that are to try to catch up, Jim, they're going to probably pour most of their money into football, but to me, they're still going to be behind the eight ball. And then at that point, you just have to hope luck kind of goes your way on the field so you can start turning some heads and maybe obviously raise more money.
Yeah, here's the question I got, because I think this is ultimately, I've always been a big believer that the schools that offer an avenue for kids to compete, it serves the whole well-being of the student athlete, giving them an avenue to compete and get a great college education. The thing that I just don't think there's much time left is non-revenue sports. Now, it may be different at each school. You pointed out maybe wrestling at Rutgers is a revenue generating type of sport, where at school X it's not, or whatever. Men's and women's track is another example. I just don't see how schools can continue offering a broad-based athletic program because of the cost that's going to be associated with this. No more scholarships, so everybody's on a scholarship. So I just don't see it happening. I mean, I hate it, but I just can't see a school being able to support a broad-based athletic program unless you're an Ohio State or a Michigan or someone like that. But you talk about the middle Big Ten schools and lower, whether it be ACC, Big 12, whatever, they're going to have to cut the budget. And unfortunately, it's going to come at the cost of those sports.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very hard decision for a lot of athletic directors at these programs where, you mentioned the upper tiers of the Big Ten, the ACC. I'm looking at, I don't know, I'm not too in depth with the ACC, but I can probably assume off the top of my head that a school like, let's just say schools like Miami and Florida State, very rich football programs. They could probably afford to infuse a lot of money into basketball as well. But who knows with those schools as well? What are they going to do with their track programs, their baseball programs, or their even some of their women's programs? I think it's an alarming issue. I think that's the that was the biggest argument against the House settlement, because everyone knew where this money was going to go. Yes, you could pay the athletes directly, and yes, that will include the Olympic sports as well, which a lot of certain schools they've been able to, I don't want to say manipulate NIL deals, but other schools that have very rich Olympic programs or Olympic programs that are very successful on and off the field or mat, those types of programs can, I guess, generate more dollars, and they're able to afford in the NIL space for these athletes. But yet they're going to have to solely maybe rely on those NIL packages or the donors, because the revenue from the school that's going to be able to be paid back to the athletes, it's going to the big sports. It's going to football, and it's going to basketball. So it's kind of the same situation that they were already in, because again, even before all this, guys, we were talking about, hey, here's your revenue generating sports, here's your non-revenue generating sports, and they're kind of just floating there on the athletic department's budget. So I think that, but there's still going to be, it might accelerate now where it's like, hey, we're pouring all this money into football and basketball. This is the amount of money we're getting, but we have to keep up in the arms race with facilities, paying players, getting kids in the transfer portal if we want a competitive product, and it's going to come at the expense at some of these sports that are, so most of the time it's going to be the sports that are not performing in terms of the wins and loss column, but sometimes it will come at the expense of the programs that are successful, and it's like, hey, sorry, basically it's like, hey, thanks for your service, tough decision right here, but we have to cut you, and good luck in the future wherever you may go. I think we're headed down that path, unfortunately, and like you, I do hate it. Schools are gonna have to be very, very crafty in order to keep a lot of these programs. And just coming from a wrestling guy, yeah, I'm worried about it. We see wrestling programs basically cut every single season. Some then come back the next year, whether it's a new program or an old program that was cut a few years ago. The example of Cleveland State, where the government had to get involved, to keep Cleveland State wrestling, and they ended up adding a women's program. So who knows where all this goes, but I've seen it firsthand, and we're definitely not slowing down anytime soon.
Last question on this issue, and while we don't have the answer to this question, but it begs another. Robert asked, what will the time frame be for the clearinghouse to make a ruling? Well, we don't know yet, like I said, but my question is, with this being new, there's going to be an instant backlog of all of these that have to go through. Are they prepared, first of all, for this? Because every deal that's over $600 has to go through this. So that means 4 years of student athletes all hit at once.
I have no idea how they're going to get this done, to be honest with you. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when the initial settlement came out and the ruling, wasn't it June 7th or June 9th? It was a couple of days ago where it's like, yeah, here's your deadline to turn in your NIL deals. And I think they just extended that. And it's like, okay, can you imagine as you just mentioned, the backlog of deals that need to go through this clearinghouse now and get approved? It's like, yeah, all right, I make $700, I'm getting $700 for, doing this advertisement on top of, whatever I'm making in terms of, basically these kids are making a salary now. But can you just imagine if you were just an Olympic level athlete, an Olympic sport athlete, whether it's, track, baseball, lacrosse, whatever the case may be. And let's say you did an advertisement for one day, you made $700. You now have to get that approved. How long is that going to take on top of, basically half the football team has to get their NIL deals approved. So however long it's going to take, I feel like we're going to be in a situation where, I mean, you guys know how offices work sometimes. A backlog of papers. Either we're not going to worry about it. It's like, all right, keep doing what you're doing. It's a free for all. We're not going to worry about it. Or they're just going to go, you know what? Yep, approved, and they're not even going to look at it. I think we're also looking at something like that, because I can't imagine what that office or however the situation looks, where it's like, oh yeah, we have X amount of deals we have to approve. Okay, go ahead, just pass it on to the next person. I think that's where we're headed as well.
Okay, now we're going to talk some football, man, as Big Ten Media Days just a month away, 6 weeks away probably, out in Las Vegas. So this season is going to be here quicker before any of us know it. And I'm ready for it. I can't wait. But now I saw ESPN's, they put their list out the other day of projected finish. I'm trying to get it pulled back up, and I can't quite get it. I can't remember if they had Ohio State at the top. Which
they did. In terms of the order of finish, yep, they did. Mm-hmm.
And who do they have follow them?
So we pulled this the other day at On3, just to kind of analyze ESPN's FPI, which we love doing, of course, because everyone loves arguing about ESPN's FPI. The top five, at least for the Big Ten this year, in terms of the order of finish. with all their percentages to win the Big Ten to go along with their FPI rating this year. Ohio State was number 1, so the defending champs are back at the top. Penn State, national championship contender this year, they're number 2. And then rounding out the top 5 are Oregon, Michigan, and then USC, actually, based on these numbers, are actually in the top 5. And for your listening audience, Indiana was right there, a little bit above the middle right there at number 8 in the Big Ten in terms of the predicted order of finish.
I was surprised to see both Washington and Nebraska picked ahead of Indiana. Illinois is not an argument because Illinois is a team that is expected to be good, that is going to be a team that, well, we'll find out early because Indiana and Illinois open up the Big Ten season against each other. But there's no way I could dream of putting Washington in front of Indiana right now, nor Nebraska, to be honest with you. I don't know what they have added that jumps them up this high, because they're still not as good at quarterback as Indiana is for certain, and maybe a few of those other teams. But yeah, I just don't, not quite following that one.
Yeah, I was a little confused. Again, you go by the FPI metrics, it can get a little wonky. I mean, there was a lot of times last year, guys, where we were, breaking down ESPN's FPI top 25 week to week, and Alabama was still ranked in the top 3 a lot of those weeks and that's a team that didn't even make the playoff, and of course lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma last year. Yeah, I don't know personally why someone would pick Washington and Nebraska over Indiana right now, at least. You mentioned the quarterback. I love Mendoza coming over to transferring in from Cal. I think Cignetti got a really good one right there under center. But I'm looking at Washington right now. I believe their projected starter is Damon Williams. Obviously they were off of now his name escapes me from last year, but they had a different quarterback last year who was a transfer. And Washington got to a bowl game last year. I'll give Jed Fish some credit though, getting into the postseason, and where he left. I believe he was one of those late hires where he left Arizona and ended up going to Washington. It was based on Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama after Nick Saban's retirement. So if you follow that train of thought right there, Washington, to me, I'm sure Jed Fish is going to do a good job, but I think Indiana's better suited right now, despite basically reloading the offensive line with transfers. But I think Indiana's in a better spot. Nebraska, to me, is the big wild card of the Big Ten, where I love Matt Rule as a college coach. He's done a great job wherever he's gone, but their success hinges on, okay, can they limit the damage on defense, have that ferocious defense, and is Dylan Raiola going to take that next step at quarterback? Obviously, he started as a true freshman last year, looked really good in spots, also looked like a true freshman last year. Is he going to take that next step and be one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten? If he is, I can see the argument for Nebraska to go into the upper half of the Big Ten, if not that upper tier of the Big Ten this year. But until I see it for myself, I would still favor an Indiana over Nebraska and Washington. And frankly, I think ESPN just loves the metrics, at least, love USC for some reason. I can't see USC, by the way, at number 5 right now. Maybe I'll be eating my words at the end of the season, but until Lincoln Riley fixes the defense and I guess just pushes the right buttons, but they have decreased in wins each year that he's been there. Until they actually show me something where they're maybe racing off to a 6 or 7-0 start, I find it hard to believe USC is going to be top 5 this year too.
Brand bias, coach.
Yeah, brand bias. But Indiana's brand, like we talked before, has changed and gotten a lot better, especially in the high school ranks, of being able to walk in and having that instant recognizable logo on their chest. The thing about Nebraska, I'm interested to see how Holgerson fits into this whole deal. I was quite surprised that Rule brought him in at the end of last season and kind of turned over the apple cart in that offensive staff room, and then he became the guy, because it'll be an interesting dynamic. Now, he certainly fits, I guess you would say, Dylan Raiola's style of quarterbacking, but I'm interested to see how that all goes with everything in that regard. But I'm with you. I just don't understand how those two teams, Nebraska and Wisconsin, can be ahead of Indiana in any poll. But again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and the black and white, whatever they think the black and white looks like is what they're going to figure and all that. But I guess the biggest thing with the Big Ten is, do we ever see a quote unquote, a balanced schedule with crossover games where the Big Ten will have an agreement with the SEC that they'll each play one crossover game, vice versa, and all that, because I know there is that rumbling I'm hearing about that being a part of future scheduling, that you will have to play one school out of whatever conference and in your makeup of your schedule. What are you hearing on that end?
Not until the SEC grows a pair and goes to 9 damn conference games.
I think it's the biggest thing, and I think it's funny because the Big Ten and the SEC have been working together, I think, the best when it comes to the Power Four conferences. They're kind of dictating with the way or where the sport is going to go in the future. I mean, we see it all the time right now over the last couple of months with the playoff. Whether it's going to go to 14 or 16 teams, it's probably going to be 16, to be honest with you. Some people argue that 14 might be low-key better just because of the buys at the top, but they've been working together quite well. Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, they seem to be guys on the same page, but I'm with you. I think if the SEC and the Big Ten are going to come to some sort of scheduling agreement where you start rotating games where, let's just say, you have Big Ten team and SEC team. They'll play each other this year, and then it just starts rotating down some sort of ladder or however it's going to work, where you don't play the same team year to year, or maybe like a home and home for 2 years. Then every 2 years you switch the SEC opponent. To me, that would be a logical scenario to, I guess, schedule these non-conference games where you're not playing cupcakes. I think those are the matchups people want to see, and it gets all then every week is obviously must-see TV at that point. But you have to be able to balance it out, because the Big Ten plays 9 games in the conference. The SEC is going to not do that right now. If they do that, then I think that's where you'll start seeing, okay, maybe we get some sort of scheduling, not to use the alliance terms. Obviously, that was disastrous a couple of years ago. But I think you'll have some sort of scheduling alliance if the SEC does go to 9 games. But again, that's up in the air, and it seems like the powers that be in the SEC, Greg Sankey, who's the commissioner, he's just like, you know what? We're worrying about ourselves. We'll help out everybody else, kind of, but we're worried about more the playoff. And I think these the conference commissioners, especially Sankey and Petitti, I think they're more worried about, hey, are we going to do automatic qualifiers for the college football playoff? Are we going to have four auto bids for each of our conferences? Let everybody else fight it out, and then of course we're going to take some at-large bids because we're the Big Ten and we're the SEC. I think that's what the focus is right now. I would love to see a schedule where a Big Ten, maybe it's Big Ten and SEC crossover. Now, in a perfect world, guys, I mean, you don't want to shut out the group of 5 conferences, but maybe in a perfect world, everyone plays 9 conference games, 12-game schedule, and if you're the Big Ten, your 3 non-conference games are against an ACC, a Big 12, and a SEC opponent. That'd be great. We can all dream, and I don't think I'm going to see that in my lifetime, to be honest with you.
No, I don't think the SEC would agree to that, first of all.
No.
They don't like to put themselves in any situations where they may not be showing their best,
especially with the bowl eligibility.
Exactly. What's up next for you, man?
I'm just cruising through the summer right now. Obviously, I talk a lot about wrestling, college wrestling. Actually, we are going to provide some coverage on On3 this weekend, Saturday in Newark, New Jersey. It's Final X, so they're doing the best of 3 series in all the world team weight classes to determine Team USA. So you'll see a lot of great college alum, from Iowa, Penn State, Oklahoma State, you name it. You'll see I'll see a lot of those guys for men and women this coming weekend. So that'll be really cool to see that event actually for the first time in person for me. I've only ever covered that event from afar. So quick drive up to North Jersey for me, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But then once that's done, guys, I have to wait. I gotta wait for football for college, and obviously high school in our backyard here in South Jersey as well. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a good summer, but we all know how it works. Summer's going to fly by, and all of a sudden we're talking about, all right, how are we going to fix the football program after week 2? Yeah, that's what we're waiting for.
Indiana, not known for its wrestling prowess, but under Angelo Escobedo over the last 5 years, I think now, he has really done an incredible. Hell, they were ranked, and I remember when I first saw it, I was like, wait, what?
I've talked to Coach Escobedo before. He's awesome. They just had Donnell Washington, who I just had on the On3 Wrestling podcast right after the NCAA tournament. All-American this year for the first time in his career, up at 184 pounds. Was in the hospital after night 1 of the NCAA tournament. Managed to fight back and make sure he managed to win. I think it was 3 matches in a row after Thursday night, after being in the hospital overnight, won 3 in a row, got on the podium, and finished his career as an All-American for Indiana. So, yeah, I think things are coming up Hoosiers wrestling right now. They're in a good spot in the Big Ten, which obviously knows the premier wrestling conference. And you talk about Ohio State and Penn State, especially Penn State. Indiana's not that level yet, but they're doing a darn good job under Coach Escobedo.
Looking fun, brother. Appreciate you very much. Look forward to chatting some more about the pigskin later on.
Thanks, gentlemen. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Nick Kosko from On3 joining us here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Coach Griff, appreciate you again as well, brother.
Absolutely.
We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Glad to have you along. Thanks a lot for joining us. Just finished up a great football conversation with Nick Kosko from On3 and our own Coach Griff as well. Looking forward to doing more of that as we get closer. Lots of basketball going on this weekend. Don't worry. And the Hoosier.com out covering it. Has plenty going on. Down in South Carolina, as a matter of fact, there's a lot going on with the NBPA Top 100 camp yesterday, day one. Who was the MVP? Dylan Mingo. He moved into the top 5, number 4 overall for the On3 of the most recent rankings update. He's a 6'5" point guard. Also, Latrell Allman had a great showing yesterday. His physicality every time he comes out is being talked about. Sturdy forward, 6'7", 6'8" kid. Sounds like the type of guy that a certain coach I know likes to recruit. But several of Indiana's recruits, Bryson Howard, even produced Luke Ertl. The NBPA Top 100 camp runs a lot of side and high pick and rolls, so allowing the ball handler to get downhill and make a read. Luke Ertl plays with a great pace, and he is always on balance. That consistent center of gravity helps him to navigate in the paint and make the play for his team. Ertl has an array of finishes, showing a pull-up, a floater, and a finish at the rim. He's also an adept passer, identifying the defense and passing to his open players. Ertl shot 5 of 10 from 3 and 11 of 20 from the field on day one, while averaging 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Let me tell you, that is one that got away from Indiana. Luke Ertl he's a player. Luke Ertl is really good. Really good. And he's going to be a thorn in Indiana's side. Several others on there as well. If you're a subscriber to thehoosier.com, you can find all of that in there, as well as the summer camp information, insider information that is inside the forums as well. And if you're not a subscriber, why not? It's the place to get the information. It's where the breaking news is now coming from. Just go to thehoosier.com. First month, $1, 50% off for the rest of the year. We would greatly appreciate that, as that's what helps allow us to bring you guys this great coverage. But Alec won't be on tomorrow. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com will join us tomorrow. We'll talk more about this, and as the play continues through then, in addition to Todd Leary joining us tomorrow. Then this weekend, team camps out at Indiana, and there are a ton of teams. I don't even know how many teams there are, but there are a lot of them. Jeffersonville, Fishers in a rematch. Indianapolis Addicts, Bloomington's North and South will be there as well, amongst many other teams, out-of-state teams. So there are going to be games going on all day. TheHoosier.com will be there to cover that at all. I will be going out there as well. Looks like it's going to be raining all weekend anyway, so perfect for that to jump aboard. So looking forward to that, and I cannot wait. Brad says these football flips drive me nuts. Well, it shouldn't if it works out for you, but if it doesn't, yeah, that's never a good thing. But this is nothing new. We've seen this before. I mean, kids have been, flipping their commitments. Now, the ones that kind of, flip flop, that's not good. And what's the difference between a kid flipping a commitment and going in the portal 4 straight times? But yeah, that's just something you're going to see. I don't think you're seeing a lot more of it. But what you are seeing more of it, obviously, because Nick Amalevin, the quarterback who left Tennessee, who screwed him over to go to UCLA to take less money. There's an example there. So it's going to happen. I like all things, eventually, I think that it will level itself out. We'll have to find out. That's there's so many things you just can't predict how they're going to go, in which direction they're going to go, because there are decisions that have yet to be made, probably, that are down the road, or there may be issues that haven't been thought of somehow that still will be coming up. But regardless of that, man, another fun show today for us here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back to do it again tomorrow with Todd Leary, Zach Osterman, Kyler Staley. We'll get you ready for the weekend and for the next Pacers game as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. Big thanks to our guests today on the program, Nick Kosko from On3, Chris Denary from the Pacers, Bob Kravitz from BobKravitz.com, and Coach Griff from theHoosier.com as well. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Hello, everyone. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side, and the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there, sign up today.